Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. We will be going over the Antediluvian rule set, tabletop role-playing game, Christian based. Forgive the mess, I'm in the middle of construction. This happens to be my daughter's room, the only place that was currently empty and somewhat quiet. So, without further ado, Antediluvian, a Christian-based tabletop role-playing game. This is a setting, for those that don't know what Antediluvian means, it's pre-flood. So this is before the Noahic flood of the Bible. The purpose of Antediluvian in itself is I wanted to create, I came from the D&D world. I'd played since 2nd edition, 20 something years of playing D&D, and when I became Christian and saved, it became increasingly hard for me to hold on to the Christian values and God's morals while playing those other games. And it was not necessarily the games themselves that inherently made it hard to play, but it was all the agendas and all of the lack of godly values that came along with those systems, or even the websites that you have to go to, the virtual tabletops that you have to use. Everything has their own agendas. And then us just being a Christian, for one, obviously mocked and scoffed just comes to mind. Not that, we're being persecuted per se, like some people are really being persecuted, but you trying to share your Christian values with people that just don't believe in God, it's just an unfriendly place. Despite how much you love them, they just don't see that kind of love and reciprocate that kind of love. So I found it heavy on my heart to come up with a game where we took those pagan ideas out of off of a pedestal, rather. So I'm not putting these false deities and magic and all this stuff on a pedestal and not even allowed to share my faith. Like, I couldn't even follow like Jesus Christ in this game or in D&D if I wanted to, because everybody's like, oh, he doesn't exist in this world and blah blah blah. So if I wanted to play a character of moral value that I enjoyed playing, I would have to follow a different god in a different pantheon. And yes, it's all a game, but at the end of the day, it felt increasingly wrong. So I've been working on this game about 3 or 4 years. I had a game before this, Tribulation. This is spreading the gospel in the end times. It's a cyberpunk setting. This is before the flood. So a lot of the setting and world building that's done in this book is taken from extra apocryphal books and even world mythology, stuff like that, that's borrowed, because that mythology and those little g gods would have been known by Noah and his family by other names, but they would have came, that mythology, that lore of those deities, of those demonic beings, would have came from Noah's time and spread by his descendants after the flood. So I kind of used those settings and those kind of cultures, so like the Viking culture or the Asian cultures and Greeks and stuff like that, and I kind of flavor areas of the world with those cultures, but that's not actually what you are. It's just to kind of give your character a culture that you would understand. This book is not, it's complete, and I have 100 something pages of PDF. I'm sorry, of classes and items and gear and stuff like that. But this is all done with Google Docs, and all the artwork, unfortunately, is AI. So the whole premise of me launching this series for now is to try and get this out there into the world, get some exposure, get some Christians or non-Christians to play the game, help us play test it. This is currently playtest 0.88. So help me get it out there, play test it, make sure the mechanics are working properly, make sure the classes and all that stuff doesn't have major issues. Once that is done, I'm going to start a Kickstarter, or try to fund, or get a Kickstarter funded rather. But it's not cheap, man. I got estimates to talking to editors and artists, and they are not cheap. Just for what am I at? 130 pages, say. It's roughly $12,000, and majority of that is artists. So I'm an artist myself, and I could redo it, but it's going to take me years to do this artwork. Or I could hopefully get it funded and get it done by wonderful teams of different artists and editors and writers. So that is the deal, and all the videos that will follow this will kind of flesh out the rule book for you. So I'm going to talk about the world that we say exists. Now, again, I'm going back to, we borrowed a lot of flavor from the apocryphal books and from mythology, but we're trying to use Genesis as a measuring stick. We just simply don't have that information that we would love to have to see what this world really was like. We do know that it was increasingly wicked, and everything was wiped out because of that fact. The only ones that survived was Noah and his 7 others. So I guess your players are kind of doomed from the start. They're not going to make it out of the world. But the way it's kind of premised is you are set apart. So you live in this world. You live in these cultures that are not following God, and you were called out, called out from among them. Now, how that is between you and your game master. It could be, you could maybe hear Enoch preaching, trying to pull the wickedness of man's hearts and direct them back to God. Maybe you just overheard that, or maybe you had a spiritual encounter with something you couldn't explain, but you knew was of God. Whatever the purpose, whatever you figure out between you and your game master, you choose a class, and then your situation in the world is dire. So the world is a terrible place, kind of much like what you would see everywhere. Like even now, where our world might not be terrible, and there's a lot of good to our world, your goodness and say like human goodness and God's goodness are not even close to being the same. So you could have loving, caring people that just don't have a godly base of morality or even concept, and still fall short of God's great goodness. So when I say that the world was wicked, well, our hearts are wicked, without God's grace, without the blood of Jesus, we're nothing. So you could still have wonderful people in this world. You could still have fantastic, friendly cities and vibrant places. It doesn't all have to be death and despair. Far from it. But again, just being kind and wonderful doesn't make you a godly person. So I kind of use that flavoring to kind of flesh this world out. It is, I explained that the world has been twisted through the Watchers, who descended, took the wives of man, and they procreated and uh, had the offspring of the Nephilim. Now, the Nephilim in this game doesn't always mean giant. So while while they can be gigantic or giants, it means they are imbued with a half divine spirit that was not granted by God. Okay? So they have supernatural abilities to be more than human. And that's how they are trying to usurp the world from Adam. Okay, so God gave dominion to humans, and then Satan, in his craftiness, after God's threat, I'm going to put enmity between the seed of the man and the seed of the serpent. You will bruise his heel, and he will bruise your head. So from that moment, Satan knew his time was coming, and he tried his best to corrupt the world, to stop the seed of man, to stop Jesus Christ from being born through a descendant. So your mission is to kind of quell the madness and the evil that is just taking root and spreading rapidly through the world. You can enter into the setting toward the end, or right after the fall. I wouldn't say right after the fall, because civilizations and stuff have to be born and developed. But anywhere in that setting is kind of somewhat free. But you are set apart to try and clear a path and to keep a path clear for that lineage. Now, I don't give you direct, really nothing to do with that lineage. You just know that what you're doing is in service of service of God, as removing the corruption of the Watcher's hold and the Nephilim hold on earth. So you're purging what you can of the twisted creation while trying to maintain only God's creation in the world. Now, in the book, in the setting, you have humanity's a big part of it. And I have it where you're not ever supposed to take human life. There's circumstances where self-defense and stuff like that, but murder is definitely not on the table. We're all children of God, whether we see potential in that person or not. That's God's child. So humans are not, you're never encouraged to kill humans. You are, however, encouraged to remove Nephilim, demons, the Watchers, although that's almost impossible at this stage for you to do that. But all the twisted creation. So in here I have it described where you have humanity, you have the Watchers, which are divine. That includes, divinity includes both good and bad angels. And then you have the Nephilim, which are the offspring of those Watchers. And then you have creation, so you have beasts, creatures, everything that God created and made good. Then you have the twisted versions of those, which are the monsters. Those are everything that Satan has twisted and made evil. So Satan can't create, he can only take God's creation and twist it. Okay? So all the monsters of the world are twisted versions of God's creation. So that's the way I kind of developed monsters and stuff like that, and in our world, or this world, like dragons or the dinosaurs that we know today. Like, dinosaur wasn't a word until like 18 something, so before that they were called dragons. But the dragons that we know of in the fantasy world, the RPG world, are actually the twisted versions of those dinosaur descendants or ancestors, or relatives, whatever. So that's kind of how I'm taking the fun elements of RPG and combining them with a biblical worldview-ish kind of setting. I pray I honor God in this. The entire purpose, again, was to make a game that we as Christians could play and not compromise our morals trying to play. So I built the system as a D&D Pathfinder-ish, and forgive me, I haven't played a lot of other tabletop role-playing games, so I don't have a lot of experience with other. I played Star Wars and stuff like that, but you know, there's a plethora of tabletop RPGs, and I just haven't played many of them. So I tried to develop this game with the mindset of uh, the most, I guess it's a fair statement of just saying the most commonly played RPG. So it's in that style. It doesn't use the full RPG dice, but it is a skill-based game where your character progression goes through levels. It's 1 through 10 currently. And then after 10 to 20 will be prestige classes. So I haven't developed that yet. So it's just 1 through 10, and you build your character based around their skill set in their class, and then obviously there's dice to determine the efficiency of those rolls, or just failing, passing, things like that. The rule set itself, I've been developing, like I said, for a couple years. This is playtest 0.88. It is it's free, so you can download this free. I believe I have a Facebook, I have a Discord, and this will obviously be uploaded to YouTube, but they're all Antediluvian TTRPG. You could find either of those, and I have the links where you can actually go to my G Drive and request a download for free, the PDF copy. That also being said, even after the Kickstarter, I have a website. So let's go ahead and I'll show you. Let me see. We have a website that we're developing that you can create an account for free. This has not been secured yet, so please do not use any important information that you wouldn't want stolen. Okay, just make something up and just remember what you made up. Once we get everything secured, we'll send out emails to create real accounts. But most of this stuff doesn't work. But you can come here and create, create your own character. This will be a video in itself once I get to that area, but it's very in depth, and it's just a separate video. Okay. Here is the Facebook. You can find us under Antediluvian TTRPG, and the Discord as well. I don't know if I have a. I think I'm in the way. Yeah. And then not that Antediluvian. Yeah. So. Anyway, so you can find us there. Antediluvian TTRPG. It's like that on all of our stuff. So this will be our introduction kind of video, just kind of explaining, I guess. The future videos, I'll go over like the premise of the world, explain a little more in greater detail about how you would expect the world to feel. I put in a lot of fun elements, like there's sky travel, there is dinosaurs or dragons that you would be able to ride for transport, for flight, or for land. It's a very fun setting, and it feels familiar. It feels like a classic RPG. It's just biblically based, can't even say it. Biblically based. And then I try to incorporate everything I could. Now the players are not allowed magic. It's not of God's will. But there's magic in the game, okay? So everything that you find in our modern world and in mythology and all that stuff is in this game. So like, it's that fine line where we want to make a Christian game and keep everything away from you as a Christian, but in reality, the world can't be kept from you. And this is a very good way for you to see how the world and where all of the temptations and where all of that corruption that we face today came from. If you talk to a if you would talk to a Second Temple Jew and ask them where demons were from, and they would have told you that the Nephilim that God destroyed in the flood, they were not of God's will, and they were, when they were destroyed, they became the demons that we face now today. And so that's kind of where I get all this stuff from, and that is your task as a character, to root those people out, those demonic forces, whether spiritual or bodily, and destroy them. So I know I'm rambling on. I appreciate it. Sorry about the room. It's kind of very girly. But anyway, so I tried to put Christ in this as much as I can. It's obviously before he came to us and died on the cross, but we know that everything was created through Christ. So he was definitely there. We just don't know to what extent, and a lot of it is not recorded in Genesis. So y'all stay tuned. I got that coming. We have our own, our first sandbox adventure that's coming out. We have another rule setting. This is a cyberpunk called Tribulation. This is more evangelical and spreading the gospel, saving souls toward end times. And Antediluvian is obviously, combating the evil that was on the world before God decided to call it a wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and end here. If there's any questions you have or anything you would like to know, feel free to leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. I'll have a lot of these videos coming. Hopefully they'll be a little more polished and I won't be in my daughter's room. But thank you all. God bless. And search Jesus. Pick up your cross and follow Jesus. So that's the biggest thing we could do. Love each other and love as Christ loves you. So thank you all again. I'm out.